This episode is brought to you by Grammarly.
Hey, man. Have you ever heard of Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar?
Yeah.
Okay. Bob
Yes.
Lazar.
Yes.
Not
That's what I said.
Bob Lazar.
Well,
Because Bob Lazar is either a
what you just said is
Pokemon,
right.
a RuneScape character, or Bob Lazar.
it's a wild Bob Lazar.
You got to catch that Bob Lazar. You remember when churches were doing the whole Pokemon Go thing, and they were just we're a hotspot for whatever. You know, we've got this. Yeah, Bob Lazar.
Lazars.
Bob Lazar. You know,
Can we Photoshop Bob Lazar into a Bulbasaur?
I don't know.
Can we sell Bulbasaur
either of the
cards
words
that
that
are
you
Bob
just
Lazar?
said? I don't know. I can't picture what you're asking me. You know what I'm saying?
I know you're asking me a thing.
I understand
don't know
that
what
you're
any of it
saying
means.
words, but I don't understand. I don't know who Bob Lazar is, and I don't know what a Bulbasaur is. I know what a Boba Tea is.
Yeah, that's pretty close to both.
Okay,
actually.
great.
Both Bob Lazar and Bulbasaur are similar to Boba Tea.
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar. Yes.
No, okay, who is it? You literally took the Audi logo off of a car and you glued it to the front of your car.
You have to do heroin when you go down there so that way you blend in.
And they go, are you aware that you're a fat piece of crap?
And then they duct tape their eyes shut.
It's worse than Hallmark movies.
Things I learned last night. TILLN it.
Bob Lazar is a guy still alive today who is
Invented lasagna.
yeah
He called it lasagna.
yeah, but everyone was like, nah, change the R to a G and don't say it.
Don't pronounce it.
And he was like,
hey, change. And
good
he was
call,
like,
good call.
I
I
see.
see.
So you're saying it's got layers.
Whoa!
Okay. So Bob Lazar is a person who's still alive.
Still alive today.
Fiddle off. That's it. That's all. It's all we do now. We just tell you if a person is dead or alive.
This guy's alive.
Here's a list. We're going alphabetical order. Bob Lazar, alive. See you next week on Things I Learned Last Night.
Bob Lasagna.
Dead. Dead from. Do you get diabetes from lasagna? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think you do.
I don't know.
You get like, I don't know, heart palpitations.
Heart? Did you say palpitations?
Yeah.
Okay. I get heart pulp.
I got just a bunch of pulp in my heart.
All right.
Can I get a new heart? No pulp.
I'll tell you who can give you a new heart. Have you heard of Jesus Christ? So,
Oh my gosh.
This is off the rails. We should edit all this out and just start back with Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar. He is the guy who made Area 51 famous.
Okay.
So the reason we talk about Area 51 or anybody thinks about Area 51
Aliens.
at all is because of Bob Lazar. Before that,
It doesn't help that he's got an alien sounding name.
he is an alien.
I am Bob Lazar. Area
I escaped
51
from Area 51.
is totally normal. You should have no questions about it.
Everyone's like, who let Bob Lazar out? He's such a bad liar.
Okay, I can't tell if this alien has an accent or if that alien is doing a Borat impression. Like, I don't understand what's happening. Very nice.
Aliens are big Borat fans.
Yeah.
Big Borat fans.
Big Borat fans. So Bob Lazar, which I mean straight up sounds like an alien, you know? So Bob Lazar makes Area 51 famous by
Yes.
what? Hanging posters around? Like,
Yeah, he started an advertising campaign on Facebook about Area 51. Now here's what happened. Here's what happened. Okay. Before we dive in, I think we should say I am strictly undecided on Bob Lazar. Here's what we'll do. We'll go through the story. We'll tell the story.
Yeah.
Right? And then I want to look at some critiques and some, what's the opposite of critiques? Proteques? I don't know.
you're going to look at the the people, the arguments against it,
Yeah.
and the arguments for it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a guy I actually found him in college. Just before, like, he recently kind of came back into the public sphere.
Okay.
And so I found him just before that. And when he came back in, a lot of more things came out. And I don't know. It's really interesting. So we'll look at his story first.
Okay.
So Bob, he was born in 1959.
19.
No, the year 1959. Don't forget, he's an alien.
Bob Lazar.
No, he was born in 1959.
Okay.
He's an engineer, studied at Harvard. After Harvard, had a pretty prolific early career working for a few really large companies, working on some major projects. Became almost a sort of icon in his neighborhood because he had retrofitted his Honda to have a jet engine. Just because he's one of those engineers who's just constantly tinkering, you know. He's like, I got a little project.
They tinker.
I got a little project in my garage, and the next thing you know, his garage door opens up, and you just hear, and he just jet engines down the.
Yeah, when engineers go to prom, they call it the Tinker Ball. So anyway,
and so his
I'm
neighbors.
the Tinker Bell of the Tinker Ball. You know, so I belong here.
Tinker ball.
So they're always tinkering.
Yeah.
So what you're equating Harvard graduates to is the idiot from your high school who's got a SoundCloud account that he uploads a song maybe once every 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's just straight up garage band samples that
Yes.
and then over it he's like, yeah, what's up? They tried to doubt me, but now I'm out here in my Audi. And you're like, it's not an Audi.
Yeah.
You just have a Honda Civic that you literally took the Audi logo off of a car and you glued it to the front of your car.
That's pretty close to what he did. He took a 737 engine
And then
glued it to
the car.
Took like 30 packs of glue.
They're the same, is what I'm saying. Harvard graduates and
SoundCloud rappers.
You know, Brendan from your high school are equal.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
So he did. I mean, he just fit his car.
Yeah, he outfit his car. Some of his neighbors.
Did he put
have been
glowing LED
interviewed.
lights underneath it? Because I mean, if you're gonna trick it out,
that's a good question. I'm curious if he would have got a subwoofer, which would have been more annoying, the subwoofer or the jet engine?
How big is a jet engine?
They're pretty
Do we have
large.
pictures of this car?
I haven't seen any. I don't know. I'm sure there's some out there, but I can do some research. If I find it, we can put it on the website.
Okay, yeah.
But
because I'm just picturing like the trunk open and just like, and not even straight, like it's just
like
sticking
angled.
out at an angle, you know, just
it's creating all this drag because it's literally pushing him into the concrete as he goes.
the gas mileage is terrible.
Absolutely awful.
Atrocious. Can't find it. And where do you fill up on engine fuel? You know, you
Jet
can't.
fuel.
They don't sell that
The
at Quick
airport.
Trip.
You go to the airport.
Pull up to Quick Trip and you're like, can I put diesel in this?
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna need like $700 on 8. But yeah, so just a very strange guy. And so he gets a job. He gets offered a job for the U.S. government.
Okay.
And specifically the military, the Air Force. And so he goes through this whole lengthy process, this lengthy interview process. He has to get clearance. Finally, they move him to Las Vegas, where he's going to start his new job. And
Right.
so he describes this job. He said it was a very strange job, very, very secure. And he said what was really interesting about this is nobody commuted to the base. None of us
all
actually
use tunnels. No one drove to the base. There's an elaborate system of tunnels, and you
under Las Vegas.
and you got to dodge all the homeless people.
Yeah, you have to do heroin when you go down there, so that way you blend in.
What?
Can I make that joke?
We know that you don't belong here.
Bob, we know you're an alien.
Bob Lazar. You know,
You're not fooling us. No, everybody would go to the Las Vegas airport, and they would board a plane, and the plane would fly them to this base. They didn't know where they were going, and so they would fly this plane.
So
to the
they
base
couldn't
every
drive
day.
out there.
They could not drive out there. So everybody who worked there
That's
commuted
weird.
by plane.
That's weird. That's a real fact.
Every day. That's a real fact.
That's a thing that happens.
and
Is
so
the
every
military
day-
is like, all right, we don't really want you to know. What do they make them close all the blinds? They're just like, if you could please close. And like, that one person in the house is like, I just like the view.
just
You
like the
don't
view.
get a view.
yeah, and then they duct tape their eyes shut.
Why would they do that if they close the blinds? That
They're
just
"We
seems
don't
like too
trust-
much.
We don't trust you. You're gonna open them.
That seems like a little much.
So he's commuting every day with his eyes duct taped shut. And he's like, man, you get there, and they had these like hand scanners that had like these little slits for your hands.
What is this, the 70s?
It's,
this point?
it's the mid 80s.
Okay.
So they had these little hand scanners that had these little slits for your fingers, and your fingers would rest in these little slits. And what they would do is, he said, they would measure the length of your fingers and your bone density, because apparently every person's bone density and bone size is different. Both of those things never match. And so he says that's how they ID'd you, was the bone density of your hand. and so
Maybe there is merit to the whole, I'm big boned. You know that thing that like fat people would do? And I say this as a person who's said this before whenever I was much larger, and still today. You were like, you're a fat porker. And I'm like, well, you're very rude.
how many people have come up to you just like, hey, you're a fat
Dude, you
porker.
are underestimating the rudeness of people. I'll tell you what.
Jeez.
I've been sitting at Starbucks and people will walk up and be like, hey, are you and I sit there and I go, yeah, I am. Like in my head, I'm like, I'm the Chick-fil-A rap guy. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the guy that graduated. Yeah. And then they go, are you aware that you're a fat piece of crap? And I was like, I'm just big boned. And it's like, I thought I got recognized, and the only thing I got recognized for was being a type 2
giant
diabetic. They were like,
your bones are way bigger than everyone else's.
buddy, do you know your bone density is dense?
It's off the charts.
Those bones are dense.
That guy's got some dense bones.
That's all right. I'm somebody's type. So
That's so good. So a highly secretive facility
yeah,
that has crazy
that
security
is like,
measures.
yeah, you gotta like
armed guards.
They're
It's
not messing
actually-
around.
It's actually underground, and so like you would get in there. There's like a little hangar, but then like the base that was underground. It's a very secretive place, and so he was tasked with. And now this is where things get crazy.
This is where it gets weird.
He was tasked with reverse engineering alien technology. And so in this base, there was a UFO. What's interesting about this isn't a like Roswell, like this thing crashed and the Men in
disc.
Black went and got it and took it here and are trying to research it. This was actually an archaeological dig. And so he says they dug this up. They found this out in the wilderness somewhere, dug it up. He doesn't know where
way.
or how old it is, but he says they found it and they've dug it up and are trying to reverse engineer it. So it's like this is some sort of ancient. Did you hear me say ancient just now with no?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's weird. Ancient.
Ancient. Have you been practicing at home? You've been looking in the mirror being like, ancient.
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 Ancient. I've been playing those YouTube videos, those pronunciation YouTube videos. Have you ever seen those?
Did you just say pronunciation?
Yeah, that's how I choose to pronounce it. Pronunciation sounds stupid.
I've been watching
okay?
pronunciation videos. Do you see how good I am at this now?
There's YouTube
I've been watching
videos.
those pronunciation
There's YouTube videos.
videos.
They're literally 5 seconds long where they just
oh yeah,
say the
and it's
word
the voice
over and
they're
over
just
again.
like ancient, ancient, and then it's a guy who says it, ancient, ancient. It's always like a girl voice, and then for whatever reason,
For whatever reason,
if
they're
you
like,
don't,
here's what it sounds like if a
well,
dude
because
says
you know
it.
there's some guys who are just like, I don't want to learn from a woman. I don't want to learn this from a who. If I want to talk to a lady, I'll call my mom.
They mute it for the first 4
Yeah, they're
seconds
like-
so they don't have to hear it.
It's a robot voice. No.
No.
I love someone so sexist. Okay, so
So they have this ancient UFO, and he's tasked with reverse engineering it. He's a part of a team.
Yeah.
And he says that the way they did this, they didn't want anyone to fully understand what was happening. And so they segmented their engineers. And so they had engineers that were working specifically on propulsion. Engineers that
feels smart because then no one person can figure it out and hold that over the government.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's groups working on every propulsion, aerodynamics, navigation, every piece of it. They were working on different pieces. And so he was on the propulsion team trying to figure out how did this thing go.
That's why I don't let any of our interns in the same room at the same time. Yeah.
I thought that was, what is that?
Also, because I was dang it. I had set it up. I was literally letting it sit. I was letting it sit. I was comedic timing that, you know?
I was
just like letting it ride. And I was going to be like, also because they're a guy and a girl and they can't be alone in the room together because the Billy, and then you were like, what is it? The Billy Graham rule? Like you got it out. I was trying to explain what the grand rule is, and then you were like, is it the Billy Graham rule?
Stole your joke, you idiot. Sucker. Gotta be quicker than that. So he's working on this project. He's working for months on it.
Yeah.
And they're making a lot of progress. He actually says that at one point, and this was very rare, that you would actually get to go physically see the craft. Like you got a lot of pictures, schematics, or they would take pieces from it to your lab so you could
That's so
look at that piece, and then they would take it back because they didn't want
Who's
anybody
they?
getting...
Who's the people in charge?
I don't know. The generals, I don't know.
Yeah. They're just bringing people. Okay.
Yeah.
So
they're bringing pieces of it. They're letting them. Well, they actually got approval to go see the propulsion system in its actual place because they were like, we think there's more to this than we think, and we need to see how it fits into the whole. And so they got to go look at it. And so he describes going up in there, and he says it was very strange because the ceilings were really low. He said they were about 5 to 6 feet in height at the highest point. He said there's no corners. It was all curved edges. This is an interesting detail. He made a point to say there was no artwork, which I don't understand why that was a point that was important to him. Because like, when do we put artwork in our vehicles? But
you don't have a painting in yours?
Yeah, I just got a painting above my passenger window, over my passenger window.
Your passenger painting.
You gotta give your passengers something to look at.
My car is outfitted with a stained glass window. It's pretty hard to drive, but it's a stained glass window.
What are the odds that you replace your back window with a stained glass window of you?
I feel like that's super expensive to do, right?
But so funny. Does that guy have a stained glass
window? Can you please support us on Patreon so that I can get a stained glass window on my Honda Civic? You know, some people like to put jet engines on their Honda Civic. Some people like little lights underneath it. I sure would love a stained glass window. Did you say of myself? Just like... And then like what? Like, if I already get flipped off in traffic enough. I don't need.
That's amazing. I'm gonna look into this.
Yeah, that's my stained glass window.
You have to. Yeah, you need paintings or something in your vehicles for your passengers to have something to ponder. Yeah. That was a youth pastor line.
And then I would have to buy a website so people could marvel at it, right? You know, thestainedglasscivic.com.
Oh, that's good. You think Honda would send you a, like, I don't know,
cease and desist? Like, you can't do that to our cars.
A $15 model of a Honda Civic to say, hey, thank you. And
like a little
just
tiny
a little
model?
They're like, hey, we have a gift for you. And you open it up.
He's saying that because I had 30 million views on a video about Amazon, a multi-trillion-dollar company. And then what they sent me was a Echo Dot. Not even like the highest level of it. Just like the $25.
Yeah.
Here's an Echo Dot.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, thanks. I'm like, well.
Hey, you did good.
Okay. I mean, when Candace Payne went viral as Chewbacca Mom, Facebook flew her to their headquarters. But yeah, an Echo Dot's good. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. So he,
Well, whatever. What do I got to do to get verified? Jeez.
I don't know, maybe turn your window into stained glass.
And that's what I've been chasing. And it's the same thing as like, when I get verified, what will I do with my life? That's my biggest goal.
Oh gosh.
No, it's not.
So
This episode of Things I Learned Last Night is brought to you by Grammarly. Now, this is actually a tool that I used in high school and in college when I was writing papers. It's an extension that you can put in your word processor. You can do it on their website where you take the paragraph, the paper that you wrote, you plug it in, and it'll tell you all of your grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes, and it really is it's a proofreader that's over your shoulder without the embarrassment of handing your paper to someone else for them to go, wow, you suck at writing. It really is like a computer that saves you from that embarrassment. Did you use it?
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you can sign up TILLN.com/writegood. TILLN.com/writegood. WRITEGOOD. You can sign up for Grammarly. This is actually something that I believe in as opposed to everything else we've thrown on this podcast.
So, and then he goes into the cockpit. There's a little door for the cockpit.
So there's
He
like
goes
a
in the
whole...
cockpit. Yeah, it's like a...
He's making this up. Here's the thing. This isn't verified. There's no way to verify
he's verified
it.
on Twitter.
Shut up. I'm saying there's no way to verify it because it's like dating a girl from a different school. It's like... Follow me.
I know exactly what you're going with
it's
this.
just kind of like, it's in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know where it is. They only let me see parts of it. I couldn't draw the full thing because I only got to see segments of it.
What town is she in?
And also,
I don't know, I just made it up.
I don't know, like she's in a different town, and to get there, you got to fly with your eyes duct taped closed, and it's
like just close your eyes, and yeah, it's a thing.
I do have a date to the Tinkerball, okay?
This is fair, and that is a critique, but there's some things.
Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit. So he's saying no artworart in this thing.
There's no artwork.
He's like, it's incredible how just
boring,
practical.
All the walls are metal and white, and there's nothing printed on them.
Is it metal?
Boring. Yeah, it's some sort of metal. And then there's a door into this cockpit. The door's pretty small, and then there is a seat in the middle of this cockpit. That he said that he describes as like a children's chair. He's like it was like a child's chair, and like some sort of navigation system, like control system with like screens and stuff.
Screens.
Yeah, and so he's like,
saying there are screens.
Yes, yeah. So some sort of
it's made up. Aliens don't have eyes.
And so he in their research, what they started to discover that this wasn't something that had sort of an engine that pushed it. Instead, what it did is it bent gravity and rode that wave of the gravity that it bent. And so they were able to test it and make use it in a small scale in a lab and be like, okay, that's what it's doing. But they couldn't figure out how it was doing it. He knew that it was using this element that they called element 115, which was an element that didn't exist.
Right.
But it had 115. It would have been 115 on the periodic table. And that's how they fueled
gravity.
it and bent gravity. Yeah. Whenever he went to see that craft, though, on his way back, he was walking through the corridors back to his lab, and he accidentally took a wrong turn and ended up in this other room where he saw a much larger craft.
Than the one they were working on?
Yeah, than the one they were working on. He only knew about the one that he had.
So there's more of them.
Yeah, there's more of them.
And I got there by taking a wrong turn.
Yeah, so he ended up
in a place that I don't know where it is.
Yeah. So he ends up seeing it.
Okay.
And they like shoo him out really quickly.
They're like, whoa.
Whoa. Yeah.
We have incredible security.
Yeah.
We measure bone density, but also our hallways open.
They're just free.
And you could
do
just
whatever you want.
Whoops.
Whoops.
I mean, what kind of freaking... Okay, whatever.
So he sees
it's
that.
falling apart for me already, but go ahead.
On another occasion, same sort of scenario. He's walking to his lab, and somebody had left the door open in one of their labs, and he sees these two guys talking to a little gray man that's sitting on a chair. And he's like, I only saw it for a split second, but he's like, I don't know what that was. And so he was
a little gray man.
Yeah, he's like, this is a little alien. But he said nobody there ever said aliens. Nobody there ever said these were spaceships. He said they actually referred to the people who would have piloted this as the kids because everything was so small. They were like, it's built for children. So they referred to them as the kids, which is kind of creepy.
That's terrifying. It would only be worse if they called them the children, you know?
children.
But the kids is also a little like...
It's also a little...
Yeah.
Yeah, so they referred to them as the kids, and they would often say that it was otherworldly. And so it's like they highly implied that this is not human, that is alien technology. But they never actually went out and said this is alien technology. He said that whenever he got there and he was doing his research, they gave him all these documents to help understand how this stuff worked together.
Okay.
But what they did, and they straight up told them this, is they said, hey, this is full of a lot of information, and most of it is true. But we've also put some lies in there. So that way, if you go public with it, we would know, we could trace it back to you because everybody got individual specific lies. And so...
But then couldn't they just kind of cross-examine?
What do you mean?
Like, couldn't they just compare notes? Be like, which lies did you get?
Well, they don't know what's lies. So there's all these information. They don't know what's true and what's a lie.
Got it.
So if they went out and said, blah, 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 boom, lie, and the government's like, okay, yeah, like I said it, go kill him.
That's how the government works. The government is like the mob boss.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh. This is before they had watermarks. Yeah, you know, like on... Anyway.
So, obviously, he's experienced all this, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
He's frustrated with the whole thing, though, because it's so compartmentalized.
What if, like, the kids part was a lie? You know, like, what if most of the stuff that is, like, weird about it, that's a little alien-y, is the lie? You know?
Like,
what if there is artwork? You know? That's what I'm saying.
There's just great
and
art.
they were just like...
Like, really good art.
They were like, hey, here's a few quick facts about this. 1, it's driven by small children. 2, it bends gravity. 3, there's no artwork. 2 truths and a lie. And he's like, yeah, there's no artwork.
No artwork?
Yeah, it's littered with art on the inside.
That's just the most artistic structure we have ever seen.
It crash landed because they spent more time on the art than they did on engineering this vehicle.
These kids are artistic.
These kids are artistic for sure. These kids are freaking remnants.
So he gets frustrated because he had that one
We
experience.
call
where
it the Van Gogh mobile.
Go mobile.
Yeah. The Van Gogh machine.
Okay. Great.
The Michelangelo go. That was hard.
Okay.
Okay, so the kids is probably a lie. So they put in like different lies in their sheets.
Yeah. And he gets frustrated
by
this.
Could spend like 3 months following a lead for that to be one of the lies.
And it's actually, a lie.
Yeah.
And he was really frustrated about all this, all this secrecy, because he's like, he knew that one time where they got to look at it, the propulsion unit in the ship. He's like, we discovered so much in that moment. He's like, we're looking at just pieces of this when we should be looking at the whole.
Yeah. You're trying to figure out the whole landscape while you're looking at one leaf.
Exactly. And he's like, we're making this way too difficult. And he's like, if we just let us actually work on this and quit being so secretive, we could figure this out way faster. And so he was frustrated. He's kind of a disgruntled employee, but he was also very amazed at the things he was seeing. And so in the process, he started to, he knew that they were testing secret craft too. He says that he knew they weren't getting this one off the ground, but he knew that there was other experimental craft being tested at this site.
Okay.
And he knew where and when they were doing these tests. And it was always the middle of the night. And so what he would do is he had a group of his buddies that he was telling all these stories to, and all his buddies were like, you're full of it. Like, this isn't true.
He was going home and telling his friends this stuff?
Yeah, yes.
That's like rule number 1 of anything government.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it is now.
I mean,
maybe
now
they were
it
like
is.
freaking Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar ruined everything.
this for everybody. We used to be able to be the highlight of the party.
We gave him a jet engine to shut him up.
We used to be at parties, all right, in the 50s and 60s, and we would just have everyone gathered around, be like, well, listen to this tale we've got.
Let me tell you about the kids. It's not what you think.
And then now, when people ask, what do you do for a living? We got to be like, I work for the government.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, really? Like, what do you do?" And he's like, "Well, I can't really talk about it."
It's the government.
But if they knew, I'd be the freaking coolest person in the room. And instead, I'm just a misfit with no friends and depression.
Yeah, so
I can't talk to
it's
anybody.
Bob's fault. It's Bob's fault.
We all hate Bob Lazar. I say we as if I'm part of the government, and that's not what I mean. I am not a government entity.
I am not a government entity. Who's lying? One of us is lying. So
also, one of us is wearing a USA shirt. So I don't know.
I don't know who's telling the truth.
I don't know if that gives it away.
So he because
what if this whole time I'm like trying to be a comedian, right? And I'm like building this whole thing online, but secretly I straight up am like a special agent. And I'm just like, yeah. I'm just funny. I do podcasts.
I'm just a funny guy.
And then like, I could, because I'm never a suspect for anything, you know?
Yeah, because you're just a funny guy.
I'm just a silly old comedian.
Oh, that was just
me?
a joke.
Oh, me? No. You know, and like I snuck into that college graduation because there was a whole secret plot for aliens to like blow up Missouri State or whatever.
Yeah, and you stopped it.
And I don't know. Did I? I can't take credit for it. It was a team effort.
Anyways.
I'll tell you this, though. Behind stage at Missouri State, no art.
The least artistic room.
Is so bland. That's one of my first observations.
Didn't even have a stinking corner in that room.
Yeah, there's no stained glass here.
Because nobody believed him, he was like, all right, bet. And so he started planning these little.
He was pretty far ahead on the lingo.
He started planning these little weekend trips, and they would just get a couple cases of beer, bring a roller grill, and just go sit out in the desert. Where they would test these things.
I 100% know what's happening now.
They'd sit there. They'd sit
take
there
their
with their
shirts
lawn
off,
chairs.
right? They got hats that don't fit their head, and they're just sitting out there. You know what I'm saying? The trucker hats that it's like they've got it, but it's just like
open,
just like hanging out up there. You know?
Yeah.
And they're just out there. They're drinking too many beers.
Yep.
All right, and like. You know, shorts that are way too short.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're just out in these lawn chairs. And the lawn chairs didn't used to sit up as high. They were like
they were really
lawn
low.
chairs.
They were really low, yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So they're just very low to the ground, just looking up.
And then a bat flies by.
And they're like, that was it.
Like, did you see that?
I don't know. Seems pretty suspicious to me.
So he starts taking his buddies out there.
He's like, guys, get in my jet-fueled Honda. And here's some duct tape. And they're like, what's the duct tape for?
Duct tape your eyes?
You guys are going to have to close your eyes.
And they're like, Bob, why are there so many paintings
why do you
in your
think I
Honda?
don't have eyelashes? Huh? You think that I'm just naturally eyeballed?
Naturally lashless. So he does this a couple times. Well, he gets caught. And so the
military police roll up on him?
Yeah, so the Air Force pulls him in and is like, hey,
we saw you out there.
This isn't okay. You're not supposed to do this. So you're fired. Leave and don't ever talk about this. Or else. They don't say that, but
they kind of do.
But they kind of do. It's heavily implied. It's like, hey,
don't ever talk about it.
Here's a piece of paper.
And again, we're the military.
Here's a piece of paper. One of the things on the piece of paper is the truth. Two of them are a lie. And it just says, it's 3 lines, and it says, we will kill you, we will kill you, we will kill you.
2 of those are true.
And he's like, I don't understand.
No. We're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. You'll live to be 80. 2 of those are true.
And he's like, well, okay, so
I'm
which one of these
47 right now.
I don't understand how 2 of these, because so he's freaked out. He's a little nervous. And so he decides. They
didn't say that at the beginning though. He was comfortable enough that he was like, you know what? I bet I can bring my friends and a few cases of beer out here in the middle of nowhere. Like, I mean, for real. I mean, like, if you're working on a top secret thing, something where they literally like fly you to it and do an underground top secret thing.
Yeah.
At what point do you go, this is probably fine to bring my friends to?
Well, at this point, he's pretty frustrated.
Well, I understand that, but I mean,
Yeah.
Is he frustrated more because the government secrecy, or is he frustrated because his friends don't believe him?
He's frustrated about the lack of artwork. I think it's a little both.
You know?
So all this happens. He gets fired.
This is how people go crazy, by the way, especially because I think about that all the time with like FBI agents or like CIA people who like know things that the public does not know.
Yeah.
But they can't even tell their spouse about it.
Totally.
You know?
So he gets let go, and in this gap, he starts noticing he's being watched, and he starts to fear for his life. So he starts to make plans, and he's like, I'm going to leave the country. I'm going to move.
You don't think they watch those guys anyway? Like if you work there, you don't think they're kind of following you a little bit?
Probably, but I would assume, honestly, I wonder if it was like a fear tactic type of thing.
Yeah,
We want you to know we're watching you.
Know that we're watching you.
Yeah.
We've been doing it, but now we kind of want you to see
it, that it's happening, so you shut up.
Like we're going to roll up in an unmarked van.
Yeah, with a sign on the side that says, we're the government and we're watching you. Also, kids are going to take over the world, which is true.
We're the government. We're watching you. Flowers for sale.
What's the truth?
2 of those are true. And it's just, we're watching you in flowers for sale. It's not the government.
Not the government. It's a weird flower salesman.
Very aggressive flower salesman who like just really wants to know his clientele, you know?
I noticed you love daisies. Have you seen how many daisies are in my van?
So
he starts to make plans to leave the country.
Yeah.
But in making these plans, he realizes I'm never going to get away from these guys.
Oh, for sure.
And so he says he's so nervous for his life, he thinks that the only way he can guarantee his survival is by going public with this information. So if they kill him, it proves that he's telling the truth. And so he says, that's the only way I can guarantee that I don't die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he calls up George Knapp, who was a reporter at the time, and does like this national news story about it.
Yeah.
And so he calls George, and he's like, hey, George.
Knapp? George Knapp?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did the syndicated radio program Nap Across the Map.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, I got a place on the map where you should come nap. No, he's like, I got to show you something. So he takes them out, got a couple cases of beers, his lawn chairs, takes them out, and they see something. And he's like, I need to have you on my show. So he takes them on the show.
They see something?
Yeah, they see the test. They see the test.
Okay.
A flight test. Wasn't of the UFO, but it was something that wasn't public knowledge yet, like a stealth bomber or something like that.
Which would be pretty creepy to see.
Before you knew it existed.
Yeah.
Because and I mean,
2 of those flew over my parents' house a couple weeks ago.
Those are crazy.
Like, where were they going? In the Midwest, like just over Mount Vernon, Missouri.
Know. Well, I mean, most of them are stationed here in Kansas City. Did you know that?
I thought they were in St. Louis, but yeah.
I think they're stationed in Blackman.
Oh, okay.
I thought. I could be wrong.
I know they're in Missouri.
They were in Blackman. Maybe they've got a couple. Anyways.
I know that most of them are in Missouri because my parents made a big deal of that when they were like, for whatever reason, stealth bombers were like the thing in 2007.
Yeah, they were hype.
They were like, we got stealth bombers.
They put out a new album that was just fire. So everybody was hamped on them. I just had hamped.
They were hamped on it. Yeah.
Hamped.
That's how I am at Christmas, dude.
Hamped.
Like I'm hamped up right now. Anyway, so the reporter sees something that he is like, you know what, I can report on this.
Yeah, he's like, let's have you on the show. So they do a spot on him where he kind of tells the whole story.
Okay.
And it's this fantastical story. People get enamored with it. And what was crazy is at this time, Area 51 wasn't this famous place.
Right.
There was a lot of sightings that were happening around the Las Vegas area of these what was really the test flights.
Yeah.
But there was these UFO sightings, and now he kind of gave a place where they were coming from.
Did he call it Area 51?
No, he called it S4 because he was in a subset of Area 51 that was called Section 4, and so he was a part of S4. But over time, it became this greater Area 51 conspiracy.
So it's Area 51 is mostly all underground.
No, they've got a lot of above ground. S4 was underground. I don't know a ton about Area 51, but I do know that I've looked at it on Google Earth, and there's a lot of stuff above ground.
Yeah.
They're fake artwork on Google Earth. So he does his whole news report. Obviously, this fantastical thing. And so the public is excited about this. Some people start to verify a lot of this information.
Like they're trying to go out there themselves.
Yeah, and obviously you can't verify a lot of this. So what they started to try to do instead was verify Bob Lazar.
Right.
So they went back.
Can we at least figure out his credentials? Can we figure? Yeah.
So they went back
and they were like, this guy doesn't have a birthday. Like, there's no birth certificate for Bob Lazar. And then they started saying it a little quick. They were like, Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar?
Sounds pretty alien.
Sounds foreign. And not in a racist way.
Not in an
not in like a
earth way.
Not in a like, you don't sound like you're from here kind of way, but more of like, you don't sound like you're from here. I think you're an alien.
So they went back to try to verify his credentials, and here's what's
Which I don't care if aliens come to Earth. I just want them to do it legally.
I know you're from like Pluto or something, but who was our first president? All right, I just need to know who the first president is before
pass the civics test,
and you gotta
sir.
pay taxes. So they start to verify his credentials.
Yeah.
Going back, they found that they couldn't verify that he was ever at any of the companies he said he was at or at Harvard. Everybody, they would call all these numbers and they'd be like, "Yeah, we don't have any record of him being there." The United States Air Force had no record of him being there. So you're like, well, this guy's making
obviously
all this up.
The Air Force is going to be like, nah, he's not here.
So this is one of the biggest kind of hinge points that people are like, oh yeah, he's lying, because nobody in this line of people can verify that he existed. Well, in the wake of all of this, someone in the Air Force was like, well, hey, I have this Air Force employee handbook or employee phone book, and here under engineers is Bob Lazar with his phone number and his address. And they're like, but the Air Force is saying he's never worked here. And so now a bunch of people are like, okay, well, maybe they went and they wiped him from everything, but the phone book was already printed. So they couldn't go delete him from this already printed phone book. And so...
Yeah, it's a lot easier to scrub somebody these days.
Yeah, because it's all digital. So now Harvard will pretty regularly be like, no, we don't have any record of him being there. But Bob Levers, what should we call him? Bob Lazar, Bob
Lazario,
Bob Levers, Bob Levers,
Bob Lazar.
Anyways, people who believe him are like, well, yeah, they just went and they.
That's what you're trying. I was like, we can call him Bob Lazar. That's his name. I was like, what are you trying to say now?
No, Bob Levers. Bob
Levers is fine. That's
Bob
good.
Levers.
Yeah.
Bob Levers.
You were like, what should we call him? I was like, well, this whole time we've been calling him Bob Lazar.
What about his name?
I was confused on that. So you're saying people who are bought into this and are like, no, I believe that guy. You're calling them Bob Levers.
Bob Levers, yeah. They say, oh, well, they went and they scrubbed him, but they missed the phone book, obviously. That's kind of their nail in the coffin. Is like, hey, look. But
is there any other phone books? Is there just this one guy?
There's just this one Air Force. Well, I don't know if there's more phone books out there. I just know that one guy came forward and was like, hey, he's in my phone book. I don't know if anybody went and verified that he was in their other phone books. But the other side of it, that on that same coin, is, well, hey, there's been nobody who's come forward for any of his previous coworkers or students that he studied with that has said, nobody at Harvard
was like, that guy was my roommate.
Yeah, that guy was my roommate, and his brother was my roommate the year before, and then his other brother. Oh my gosh, he's got like 30 twins.
That's how they infiltrate the human race. There's 30 of them, and they all just get adopted.
We're Bob Lazar.
What about Bob Lazar? And they're like, dude, these kids sound weird. He'll grow into it. He'll grow into his voice. And then they get together, and there's like 30 of them. They take over the government.
Move their fingers so weird when they talk?
Again, we've talked about this. Aliens do not have weird hands. We've talked about this before. They're offended by it. They're like, we have normal hands. We just have different bone density.
Our bone density is different.
So,
and all of our names are Bob.
Bob Lazar.
You call us the kids and it's offensive.
We're
rude. Bobs.
It's rude. So Yeah, no one from Harvard is
Which, I mean, he's definitely
checks out because people from Harvard suck, dude. They're not ride or dies. All right.
He's clearly a very shy person too. Like he's clearly very reserved, very shy.
Yeah, he's an engineer.
Awkward. Yeah, and so it's like it's conceivable that he wouldn't have any close relationships, but you would think somewhere would say, "Oh yeah, I remember him." At least be like, "Yeah, he was like 3 seats. He used to sit like 3 seats behind me."
Sure.
But nobody has ever come forward and been like, "Yeah, I remember him."
If you told me like 2 names from Evangel, I would not be able to tell you.
That's pretty fair.
You could show me a picture of me with that person, and I'd be like, I have no idea.
I have no idea who that is. That actually brings to the next point is he has been shockingly accurate over time with this story. It hasn't changed much. There's one.
See, that's interesting to me.
There's one point that has changed is him seeing the little gray man, and when he talks about it now, he says, he said it was actually 2 guys talking to this doll or like a mannequin that was made to look like an alien. He's like, I think they were studying it. And then so some people are like, oh, he's making the lie more believable is what he's doing. He realized not a lot of people bought that, so he's twisted it to make it more believable.
But everything else, he's been pretty consistent.
Everything else has been really consistent. And so what I think is happening there, and what a couple other like behavioral analysts have said about him is they think that what's going on is he over time has rationalized what he saw.
That might be
because he's like that doesn't make any sense, or even just like and he only saw it for
this
a
is this
split
guy's
second.
entire identity. It's not like this guy is just going to baseball games and sitting in a hot tub on his back porch. Like this guy, anybody who talks to him to him about
his alien
S4
story. Yeah, so he's had a lot of time to think about it, and I mean even think about it like. I mean, it's for...
But it is impressive, if it is a lie, it is impressive how consistent the lie is.
Yeah, that's not common.
But also at a certain point, it's been
20-ish years. 20, almost...
40-something years.
30-something.
So...
It's a long time.
At a certain point,
memories get foggy.
It's not even that memories get foggy, is that once you have told a lie enough, you believe it.
It's true. That is true.
And once you've built enough structure around it, you're able to recall that memory, even though it's not a real memory.
Yeah. That's pretty true.
We do that with ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that's accurate. So there's the
on
two
a smaller
sides.
scale, but we do that with ourselves all the time.
Yeah. So there's the 2 sides of opinions to that.
Sure.
There have been people who have behavior analysts who have analyzed his interviews. And what's interesting is he's only done a few interviews. He did that initial one with George Knapp, and then he did like another local news right when he did it.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything for decades after that.
We got to get him on Dr. Phil.
So what's interesting is recently he actually did a documentary. He agreed to be in a documentary that kind of chronicled his story.
Okay.
And that documentary got the attention of Joe Rogan, and so he ended up on the Joe Rogan podcast.
There you go. What's this guy look like?
He looks like a lot like Bob Lazar.
Yeah, this guy checks out. This checks out to me.
Yeah.
That's actually 100% what I was picturing.
Yeah.
Is like the big square glasses.
Yep. The comb over to
the
the forehead.
Jeffrey Dahmer haircut.
Yep.
Did I say Dahmer?
I don't know.
Dahmer? Jeffrey Dahmer
It
haircut?
was more of a doll than an alien.
What?
That was
You're there.
So forget about it.
The Dahmer do.
So he's only done a couple interviews because he says every time he comes on an interview, he's like, I'm not looking for fame. He's like, honestly, I don't want to talk about this. He's like, the only reason I do is because I really think it's the only thing that will keep me from being killed by them. And so he's only had a couple public conversations about it. And behavior analysts will watch his conversations and they'll point out that he's kind of fidgety, he's twitchy, he takes a long time to answer questions. Like he clearly thinks a lot about it.
Yeah. I'm trying to like elaborate it out because the more details you can give, the more believable a story is for sure.
And so behavior analysts have concluded that he's lying because there's all this thing that checks out. It's like, oh, this is somebody who's lying.
Right.
But some other people have countered that opinion by saying, well, hey, this is very clearly a guy who's not a public speaker. He's not somebody who's ever wanted to be
not good at telling stories.
Yeah. So he's obviously just really nervous. And so he's fidgety because he's nervous. He's slow to answer. And he's kind of, honestly, if you watch him in an interview, have you ever seen Elon Musk in an interview where it just seems like he's like brain dead? That's what he seems like. Whereas like questions get answered and he has to sit and think about it for a minute before he answers. And then he starts to answer, but there's a lot of filler words. a lot of like pauses, which, and who knows? Maybe it's a sign that he's lying, or maybe it's just a sign that he's very uncomfortable, very nervous about the situation he's in. I mean, he thinks he's doing this to save his life, and so it's a gamble. I mean, he thinks if this is true,
sure,
he thinks he's exposing a massive life.
Is that why you talk weird?
Yeah, because I think.
Do you think this podcast is the only way to keep you alive?
If I stop doing this, I'd die. Hey, thanks so much for being a part of Things I Learned Last Night. You got to go ahead and check out our Patreon. We have special content over there. You can get early access to all of our content, ad-free content. We got discounts on merch, and we have special edition merch that's only available to our supporters. You got to go over to TILLN.com/join. That's TILLN.com/join to become a Patreon today. So some behavior analysts.
if you quit, I will kill you.
So some behavior analysts have been like, oh, he's just nervous, he's just uncomfortable, and the pauses are because he's very careful to make sure that he says what he wants to say, and doesn't expose too much or too little, or just he's just uncomfortable and awkward and an awkward guy, and I think the documentary does kind of help that viewpoint, because the documentary was a different.
Is the documentary done from a perspective that they believe him?
The documentary, I would say it kind of begins in hey, we want to see what's the truth,
what the deal is, and
over time, you can kind of tell through the filming process that the guy filming it is like, I think I buy this, and is like, I want to try to dig up something that proves it. Yeah, you know, you can kind of see through the course of shooting that it changes.
That's what I felt like when I watched The Staircase.
I haven't seen that.
Guy's wife falls down the stairs and dies. Yeah, and then he gets charged for her murder. You know, but the documentary started pretty objective, and then near the end, it was definitely pro this guy. Like, no, this guy didn't do it.
Yeah, I think the documentary helps in that because it's not, he's not on some TV set. There's not a live audience. It's not live. He's in his house, in his kitchen. And he's talking the same way. Yeah, and so it's like I don't know if this guy's just an awkward guy or what the deal is. But anyways, and then. So those are kind of the things that people point out that are like, this is a lie. This is just a massive
just based on his behavior.
Yeah, really his behavior and how just crazy the story is. They're like, he's obviously making this up.
Yes.
Since this has all come out, since he's told the truth about since he's came out about this story, there has been a few things that have happened that have almost verified pieces of his story that he shouldn't have known about before that. One is just Area 51 in general. Before he came out talking about this place, nobody was talking about it like he was talking about it. That there was these secret tests happening there, that they were doing something top secret there. It wasn't in the public eye like that.
Sure.
And so like,
so it wasn't like someone making up a lie could choose this place.
Yeah. Yeah. And be that accurate, because it's come out in 2013 with the Freedom of Information Act that there was tons of secret flight testing happening here. Okay. And so that verified that. In fact, the location he would take people for those flight tests was verified that they were testing experimental aircraft in that area at that time, that he would say.
Interesting.
And so he was right about that. Also, in that same report, their bone density scanners came out and exactly to the way he described it, and they did exactly what he said they described. And in fact, there was an artist rendition where somebody drew what he described, and then when the pictures came out, it's like the same.
And he saw that drawing and was like, now that's artwork. I like that.
He's like, you know what, guys, I lied. This was hanging up in the plane.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's crazy. But the thing that...
But does that verify the story?
It verifies that he understands something that would be surprising for him to understand when he understood it. You know?
Yeah.
Like he knew about something that would be very unlikely for him to know about it without him having an experience of it. But one of the things that... And so this last one's where I get hung up a lot, because there's a lot of moments where I look at him and I'm like, yeah, I think this guy's lying. I think this guy's making this up.
Sure.
But the Element 115 thing kind of blows my mind, because he's constantly talking about this Element 115. And it was a theoretical element that they were working with that they said that this is what they fueled it with this element. The element did not exist. In 2003, a lab in Russia successfully synthesized element 115, and they called it moscovium. And obviously, in 2016, it was added to the periodic table as element 115. So far,
interesting.
We have very little understanding of it,
right?
But we know
But we know that Teslas use it to move forward.
We know Teslas use it to bend gravity.
Yeah.
We know that it's incredibly.
If you slow down videos of Bob Lazar, you can tell that it's Elon Musk in makeup. You know?
So this element, what we do know about it, we don't know a ton. We don't know it's very radioactive. It can only be synthetically made. Like, so it doesn't exist in nature.
It's not found on Earth, right?
Yeah, it doesn't exist in nature. It has to be synthetically made, and it's very difficult to make. The only way to make it is by taking these very light particles and sending them through a particle accelerator at very heavy particles and hitting them just right. And so there have been when generating these, there was one time where it cost them millions of dollars to make one like gram of this particle. So it's incredibly difficult to actually create this. And this was decades before. He was talking about this decades before it was discovered. And so he talks about it, and he has, since coming out, been raided by the FBI twice. And with the FBI, it wasn't just the FBI. It was like they brought like 4 or 5 agencies at once.
Sure.
Like the CIA.
He got raided by all 5 branches of the military. Like each day of the week too. Monday, the Army shows up. Tuesday, knock knock, we're the Navy. And he's like, I don't even know what you guys are going to do here. They put their ship in his pool in the backyard. We're just going to park this here. Don't mind us.
Hope your pool's big enough.
Underground, huh? It's an underground pool.
Wow.
You sure do love underground things, don't you? Don't you, Bobby?
So he's
like, the only people who've ever called me Bobby are the kids. Huh.
The kids. And the theory is that they think he stole some element 115.
Oh, okay,
and they have it in his lab, and he's got it somewhere in his house. Because when they raid, they never take anything. That's what's strange.
Here's my TV. Here's my here's my degree from Harvard, and that over there is just what's called Moscovian now. But you get it. Like that's
it's
just in a glass case in his living room on display. There's a little rock of
what's strange about both these raids is when they raid, they don't take anything with them. At both times,
it's just a scare tactic.
Maybe, but generally, if there's a raid, they're looking for something and they're taking evidence, but they don't take anything. They just raid and then they leave. And they're like, okay, whatever, see ya.
Yeah, I mean, they just do what like we did at camp to other boys' cabins. You take all your clothes off, you wrap yourself in a towel, and you run in, then you go, ah! And then you take the towel off and wave it above your head.
Whip it.
And people listening right now are like, what camp did these guys go to?
Pick the kids up in their sleeping bags, throw them in the showers. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty standard youth camp stuff. Then you break the window and say it was them.
You bust the window open, and then you steal all their things, and then...
and then you go get a camp girlfriend.
Right. And that night, an altar call, you go forward and you ask for forgiveness for all of it.
Yeah.
And then
you do it again the next night.
Well, did you ever use this? Because there was a kid. We did camp when I was a leader, not a student anymore, when I was on staff of the church.
Yeah.
There was a kid who did something earlier in that day.
Yeah.
And so like later that night, we had to be like, hey, Matthew, like you can't do that. Like
can't do that.
Like what were you thinking? Like what were you doing? Why'd you do this? And he just goes straight up. He's like, well, I accepted Jesus at service tonight. I was like, that's great, but that doesn't, you can't do this. He goes, no, that's my life before Jesus. Straight up was just like, no, that was my life. And I was like, how do you go? Okay,
he's like, I have changed.
I understand what you're. Okay. No. Like you still gotta. You're still in trouble for that.
Oh man.
You still don't get to go to rec tomorrow. And he was like, yeah, but that was my life before Jesus, though.
He's like, yeah, but I never liked wreck anyways.
It was one of those moments where I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I don't know how to. Who do I call right now?
Yeah, so he's been rated, and he's only done a couple of these interviews, and he's got this knowledge of some stuff that he shouldn't have this knowledge of.
Yeah, if he's making it up.
It would be crazy that, because it's not like he's just done all these interviews and thrown all these lies up there that like some of them's gonna catch. You know? It's a very pointed story. He doesn't tell much. He's only done a couple interviews.
And some of the things that he said have over time
come out to be true. Specifically,
when did he start talking?
Area 51.
When was the first time that he was like went public with it?
The early 90s. I want to say like 93, 94, somewhere around there. And since then, a lot of this stuff has come out as, hey, yeah, that's a true thing that actually happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I go back and forth on Bob all the time because like literally since I found him in college, I'm like, man, there's some things about the story that seem like a lie, but there's a lot of things where it's like, man, how, especially that element 115 to me is like, how did he know that and accurately like attribute it as 115 before anybody knew it existed? That's the craziest thing to me. Like the hand sensor, I'm like, okay, there's stuff kind of sci-fi that probably talked about stuff like that. So maybe Area 51, like people knew about UFOs in Vegas, so maybe he just found a base nearby. But the element, man, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so that kind of is the hinge on me, where I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I think he might be telling the truth. Joe's a believer. Joe Rogan's a believer. Joe has like a 3-hour interview.
Do you regularly listen to the Joe Rogan podcast?
I wouldn't say regularly, but it's entertaining.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about you.
Oh my gosh.
I just didn't know that about you. I really was thinking the other day that I hate anybody who listens to that podcast. like that's a personality trait that I'm just like not okay with.
Have you ever listened to it though?
No.
It's pretty
I
entertaining.
listened to a few clips and I went, this is terrible.
It's pretty entertaining.
I mean, it's probably the same response people have had to our podcast. But I listened to it and I went, yeah, this is just giving air time to conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. So yeah, Bob is a crazy guy. He's seen some stuff. Maybe. But you know who
where does he live now?
I don't know where he lives now. He actually owns a company that sells
because I would like to raid his house.
He owns a company.
What if we show up on like a Saturday? We're like, hey man, we know the Marines were here yesterday, but we're from Things I Learned Last Night podcast, and we're here to just take a look around.
We just want to see.
We go in the backyard. We're like, oh wow, they left their boat. That's crazy in the pool.
So yeah, he's seen a lot of crazy things. Seen some stuff that he can't explain, but he tries to. Which actually reminds me of a guy I know who's seen some things that he can't explain. And that's Space Tim.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What does Space Tim have to say? What does Space Tim have to say about the spacecraft?
Hey guys, this is Space Tim here. It's been a long time.
Space Tim, I've got questions.
Yeah. Hey Jaron, it's been a while. How are you guys?
Good. Do you have element 15 up there?
Yeah, we got plenty of element 15, but Bob was talking about element.
No, Space
15,
Tim,
so...
not the energy drink element 15.
Oh well. Sorry, you're gonna have to say that again, because man, I've had a lot of element 15 today, and I am hyped.
I'm hamped right now, bro.
And man, I don't know if you ever had a lot of energy drinks in space before, but it messes you up, man, because you just kind of float around and
there's no way to know what's up, what's down, what's sideways.
You just can't figure it out.
Right,
man.
right. So tell us from your perspective where you're looking at.
Yeah. What do you want me to tell you about?
Is Bob Lazar lying to us?
You know, it's kind of crazy. I watched his footage from here, in the space station.
Y'all have Wi-Fi?
Yeah, we've got Wi-Fi, of course, obviously.
Okay.
We have a ship in outer space. You think we would put it...
I don't know.
You think we would live in space for
You're the closest to the satellite.
Wi-Fi.
That's right. You have the fastest Wi-Fi.
Our internet is crazy, man. You wouldn't believe it. You guys, our speeds...
I don't believe it. That's the problem.
Our speeds are nuts. But man, you would not believe it. It's even worse when, the fiber goes down. Oh man.
What?
Oh man.
Yeah, we flew up to space and connected a fiber cable to the satellite.
It's just this giant cord.
Got it.
It's an Ethernet cord.
Yeah,
from
dude.
my
I
house.
mean, our streaming capabilities are insane. Now, what's unfortunate is that titles on Netflix that are exclusive to the United States aren't available at the International Space
Yeah,
Station.
we only have ISS.
All of our films are in Italian. We don't. Yeah.
We only get stuff, and they don't offer a lot for us.
It's worse than Hallmark movies.
They think all we want to watch is documentaries about space, but we have more interest. We're more dignified than that. Have you seen the art in the space station? It's wild, man.
I was just about to ask. I was just about to be like, tell me about the space station. Y'all got any art?
Yeah, there's no corners. The ceilings are way too low. It's like they designed this for kids or something.
Right.
And there's lots of art. Lots of art.
Just so much art.
It kind of gets in the way. It's obscene. I can't do my science up here.
Do y'all listen to music up there?
Yeah, but it's kind of strange. Like, it's like really atmospheric. I think they were trying to help us feel like we were still in the atmosphere, you know?
That's the worst.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a question.
Oh my
for you,
God.
though. I've been obviously scrolling a lot of Facebook up here. There's not a lot to do.
Scrolling a lot of faces.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that space engineers in space at the space station are still addicted to social media?
Yeah, I mean, we had to quarantine up here too, so like, we just couldn't be around each other that much, and you just get bored, man. So, but anyways, I've been on Facebook seeing a lot of people talk about this DoorDash.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know when they're gonna have it up here? Because I
Yeah.
could really use some Applebee's.
Well, the question is, do you tip?
Well,
Depends on the service.
yeah, it depends. I mean, if
It's not good service,
if I
they
order-
don't get tips.
If I order and they get it here within like 30 minutes, then fine. But last time it took them like 16 weeks. So, I don't know.
I like the idea of ordering Applebee's in space. Like, you literally have access to the entire world. And you're like, you know what I would love is a mid-level American chain.
Well, yeah, Jared, I mean, we wait around for half-price apps all day.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, there used to be 3 of us, but one of them like choked on a boneless wing. So he's out. We had to just open up the door and kick him out.
we kicked it out. He turned to us and he said, "Tell my family I buried a treasure." And we're like, "We can't."
Tell my family that I buried $2.5 million.
Yeah, so we called them and they were like, what?
Yeah. And then he got hit by a spaceship. Just to wait. Wait, did you say hit by a spaceship?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of those up here. We see aliens every day. We call them the kids.
That's what we're calling to confirm, Space Tim.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, there's lots of aliens.
Oh, well,
up here.
y'all know Bob Lazar?
Yeah, you know Bob Lazar? Oh, that guy's an alien, man. Totally an alien. He's been up here like 8 times. He's got this Element 115 he keeps showing us too. It's like a little cube.
Oh my God.
He's a show off, man.
Shut up. All right, are we done?
Thank you, Space Tim.
Oh, you're welcome, Earth.
Don't have conversations with yourself.
I just want to. I haven't talked to Space Tim in a while.
Oh my gosh, call him later. Fiddle off. Hey, thanks so much for watching Things I Learned Last Night. If you like that, there are more episodes you can watch, or you can watch some highlights, but please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode in the future.